all of a sudden you spend differently. So by taking profit out upfront and running your business on the smaller plate, so to speak, if you run your business on a smaller plate, you get creative, you get lean, and you get much more proactive.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hi, and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. My name's Rick Nusky, and I am the luckiest man alive today because I get to spend some time with some incredibly talented individuals, and today is no different. I'm on the line with Diana Miret. How are you, Diana?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm fantastically well. You and I were just speaking offline about the world and how it's all going for you and at the moment. And, today we're going to be talking about your work as the business profit coach and all of the other things that go with this in terms of being a Fix This Next advisor. There's lots to unpack here. But before we do that, Diana, it's customary for us to spend a little bit more time learning more about you as an individual outside of the workplace. And I'd love to start off by asking you, I guess, a couple of questions about where you are and what is it that you like to do during your recreational time?
Wow. Thanks again, Rick, for having me. I'm very grateful for this opportunity to talk to you and
It's a
to
pleasure.
talk to your listeners. And especially coming all the way from Florida, United States.
Wow.
I'm about 2 hours east of Disney. I'm on the Atlantic side in a
Mm-hmm.
small little town called Jensen Beach. And the weather is pretty warm, pretty humid.
Uh-huh.
Sorry if that's cold down there and
Oh,
I'm rubbing
yes.
it in. And what do I do for recreation?
Yes.
Well, I have two Chihuahuas that are very pushy and are always causing me to have to, take care of them. But other than that, I enjoy paddle boarding.
Very nice.
When I get a chance to go out on the ocean, I love to go paddle boarding.
That's
That's what I
great.
like to do for recreation.
Thank you very much for sharing. Now, it's good to give a bit of context to people's lives behind the business because I think business is on its own just business, isn't it? After all, but one of the big things about having a business to be able to sustain you at all is to be able to be profitable, and I think that's a really good segue into our conversation today, Diana. And I'm wondering if you could maybe share a little bit about how it was that you became involved in this line of work.
Love to. So Rick, I was very fortunate. I had a career in what's called the corporate world. I
Familiar with it.
I bet a lot of us are refugees of the corporate world.
Oh yes.
I actually got to retire at the age of 54, fully funded,
Hmm.
and decided that I was just going to take it easy because what do you dream about when you're working in corporate and you're a cubicle rat, right?
Yep.
You just want to retire. So I retired at 54. Thought I was going to spend my days just paddleboarding and maybe learning how to play golf here in Florida. And after 3 or 4 years, I got pretty bored. I guess well, I was a little young to really retire. I had too much to just
Too
still
much
do.
energy.
Yeah. So I started just socializing with small businesses around. I went to women's groups and things like that. And I realized something, and then I educated myself on it. But I realized that small business owners are wonderful, passionate, often creative
Mm.
people who really want to bring something into the world. So whether it's a restaurant or a business or they sell cupcakes, whatever it is that they do, they're passionate about it. The problem is most of them didn't go to business school and most of them don't know how to run a business. So I don't know what the rates are in Australia,
Hmm.
but in the United States, the Better Business, no, sorry, the Small Business Administration
Yep.
has cited that there are about 75% of small businesses never live past 5 years, and 90% don't make it to 10. the interesting piece is that even the 90% that make it to 10 years aren't necessarily profitable. They just haven't died yet. So
Oh,
profitability is something that is elusive. They may break even, but they're not often profitable. And profitability for a small business is stability. So when I saw that and I began to educate myself, I began reading a lot of books on small business and entrepreneurial
hmm,
uh, profitability. I realized, holy smokes, the stuff that I'd done in corporate, my degree in accounting and finance, my project management, my process management, all the things that I had learned, they didn't have. So my heart broke
hmm.
because there's no reason for businesses to go out of business. I don't know if you're aware, but in the United States, small business is the biggest employer.
The backbone.
Granted, it's thousands of businesses,
Mm.
but but compared to large companies, small businesses actually have the most employees. So when small business doesn't do well, it has a huge impact on the economy, on people, on families and lives. So I just said, but there's no reason why this has to happen. And so I opened up the Business Profit Coach because if I may, just
Yeah,
for another 10
absolutely.
seconds, here's the thing, being an accountant way back when, a long time ago, um, accounting and taxes, God love accountants. We need them. But what do? They tell you that profit is a leftover. In other words, you sell stuff
Hmm.
and then you pay your bills, and whatever is left is profit. That's how accountants view it. That's how our Internal Revenue Service or IRS views it. Whatever's left, you get taxed on.
Mm.
So the message is what? You don't want to have that stuff. It's the stuff that the IRS wants to
Take
get
away.
you for taxes.
Yep.
Well, I'm not so sure that is great thinking. I mean, sure, yes, we all need to pay taxes. Just get over yourself and pay them, okay? And let's
Hmm.
get on with life. I rather have profit in my pocket. Sure, I'll give, the IRS their piece. I'd rather have something in my pocket than not have anything in my pocket and not give the IRS anything. I mean, then we're both losing, right? Like, what's the
Hmm.
point in that? So it's partly the accountants and the IRS, the way they treat the leftovers after a business owner, pays their bills. So I just said, no, this is not going to go. No, we're not doing this. And so I created my business, my
And here
consulting.
you are. I'm wanting to unpack the mechanics of your process, your 7 step process, if we could in a moment. But to me, there seems, just based on your explanation, that there needs to be just that slight bit of a mindset shift. Is that something that you talk about with your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Rick. So, like I said, everyone treats profit as a leftover.
Hmm.
So the mindset shift, and I'm very transparent. So I read an incredible book and spoke to the author. I don't know if you guys have him on or know of him in Australia. His name is Mike Michalowicz. He wrote a phenomenal book called Profit First,
Hmm.
and that book just changed my life. And so what I've done is packaged pieces of his work and my own and put it together. And I work a lot on mindset. And what he says is open up a business account next to your regular business account and put money as it comes into your hands,
Hmm.
put money into the profit account. So we can all open up accounts online. We can name them, call it profit and put a percentage in. So for example, you can start with 1% and build your way up to 10 or whatever number you like, but put that up front. So take that profit out now. The minute it comes in the door, put it in there and then run your business on what's left. And so that's a mindset shift that we talk our clients through.
Yeah.
And they're like, hmm, that might work.
It's different.
Then they get nervous. Oh, but what if I'm missing money or I can't pay well, the money's still in your account. It's not like you're giving it to someone. It's sitting right there.
It's
So
there.
if you absolutely need it, go get it. It's yours.
Yeah, yeah.
But we spend what we get, right?
Oh, yeah. And we spend in accordance to the income. My wallet seems to open further as more money comes in.
Right?
So
Exactly.
is there like again, I want to go into the mechanics of all of this, but is there like a budgeting component to this as a business owner?
There
How does
is.
this
Yes, there
phase
is.
into it?
That's absolutely one of the key parts of the process. Once I get them past the let's put money aside for profit,
Mm,
we look at the fact that a lot of people do bank balance management. So, oh, let me see, let me check my bank balance online. Oh my gosh, I have $1,000. Woo! Off I go. And then, oh, I check it tomorrow and oh my gosh, I don't have $1,000 or I got to make payroll or whatever.
yeah.
And then they go into a frenzy trying to live like that. And I'm like, there is a better way, you guys.
Yes.
And it's called cash flow projections and budgeting. Like, I know it sounds technical. And please, I tell them, don't let your eyes glaze over. It's not that complicated.
Put the
But,
pillow away.
but yeah, exactly. But good grief, guys. If you plan it, you don't have to look at the bank balance. You just run your business. Actually, I don't know if you're aware, but there's a psychological paradigm called Parkinson's law, and it's not related to the illness, thank
No.
goodness. And basically what it is exactly what we talked about. As your wallet gets bigger, so your expenses.
Yep.
So people, if I give you $100 to go to the grocery store, you'll get real creative for the week and somehow manage to get $100 worth of groceries and eat for the week. If I give you 50, you might have to get more creative, but you're not going to starve.
You
So,
still eat.
all of a sudden you spend differently. So by taking profit out up front and running your business on the smaller plate, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
if you run your business on a smaller plate, you get creative, you get lean, and you get much more proactive. So that's the Parkinson's law is actually behind this, so that we're working with human tendencies rather than against them. Does that
Yes.
make sense?
Yes. I wonder what type of businesses that can take advantage of this. Is this all sizes of business or startups, or where
Absolutely.
should you
I
start?
I actually I coach mid-sized small businesses.
Mm-hmm.
The definition of a small business is 13 million a year. I mean, that to me is a pretty good sized
It's
business,
pretty
but
chunky.
uh, yeah, they're
I'll
doing
take a
okay.
piece of that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. So yeah, anyone can use the system, the process. The numbers might be a little different. For example, as you can imagine, if you have a business that's a brick and mortar, so you have to pay leases and if you have employees,
Mm-hmm.
then your run rate or your overhead or your spending rate is going to be a little bit different than someone who can work virtually. So, but we have metrics. That's part of the 7-step process where we look at, okay, if you're a brick and mortar or if you're not, how much should you be spending? So a lot of small businesses don't know. Is it okay to spend 50% on what I make on expenses? Is that
Mm-hmm.
okay? Is that
Mm-hmm.
like in line? Does that make sense? Or should I be at 80? Or should I be at 20? What should I be at? So Mike came up with a small business profile based on revenue.
Mm-hmm.
And we start there. We go, okay, based on your revenues, more or less, you should be paying yourself this. That's another piece of the mindset change we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Pay yourself. You should be putting this much away for taxes, because yes, you're going to have to pay taxes. And you should be putting this much away for profit. Now run your business on that and let's make a plan. So there, I just told you the pretty much 80% of that 7-step business.
Oh, there's
But
there's
yes,
lots there's
based
lots
on like
involved in there. That's a very high level view of it, and I wonder if I'm a small business and I only have a number of handful of employees, helpers, whatever you want to call them. and I have very little time to spend time on doing the books, as it were. Do I outsource this? What is the best way for someone to manage this part of the business when they start to really get serious and start looking at it closely?
So I'm going to answer that with 2 points.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
You should never be too busy to manage your money. That's when people get into trouble. You can outsource, but you should always be on top of your
Numbers.
business financials. So yes, you can, hire a bookkeeper use QuickBooks Online, and all your expenses can flow through to QuickBooks Online, and then the bookkeeper can kind of keep it tidy and keep it well greased and oiled.
Yeah.
But one must never abdicate reviewing your numbers. It doesn't have to be onerous. I teach my students when I have a class called the Profit Jumpstart class, but I teach them about Fun Financial Friday. I try to make it fun.
Put a smile to
and
my face.
Fun
Just the
Financial
dance.
Friday. Well, you got to make it fun. Yes, the first time you do it, yes, of course, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. But after the first time, it's maintenance. So if you set aside 30 minutes to an hour, depending on the number of transactions and things like that, as a
Mm-hmm.
small business,
Mm-hmm.
on a slow day, most of the time that's a Friday, unless you're a restaurant or a bar or a hotel, then Fridays start to get pretty crazy. But
Yeah.
most of us, by Friday, everybody's kind of dwindling down. So you spend 30 minutes on Friday. You look over your books, you make sure everything's aligned, you make sure the expenses are all going to where they are. You check, QuickBooks will tell you, if you put a budget in there, imagine that, a budget. It'll tell you, you're ahead of plan, you're below plan, just a quick 30 minutes. And you're on top of your game and you understand what next week's going to look like. So to answer your question, can you outsource? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But you should never outsource the responsibility or the visibility. So one of the things I do is I offer my clients, after they've gone through the program, if they're interested,
Yeah.
a virtual CFO kind of role. And I book with them a 90-minute review once a month. And we go over their financials in detail, not from a bookkeeping perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
It's
not
not
going
an
to try
audit
to
per
balance
se.
out their, yeah, pardon me?
It's not an audit per se.
Exactly. It's more of a, look at this, you're ahead of plan. Look at this, you're behind plan. What's the profitability look like for that service versus this service?
Mm-hmm.
Have you thought about, are you making enough money on each one of your services? Because maybe one's carrying the rest. I have a client right now, and she actually sells product on Amazon, as well as running a consulting type practice. And
Mm-hmm.
she was making good money. And she just didn't question it. And we pieced it apart. And I told what we ended up finding out is that Amazon sales were actually carrying the rest of her business.
Oh.
Right. And Amazon can be a little fickle, right? Because you can't control what they do, and you
Oh no.
can't control where you show up when people search for your product.
That's somebody else's playground.
Correct. So I kind of I'm her virtual CFO, so I kind of highlighted that. And said, do you realize that if a competitor enters your space in Amazon and your sales drop, your business is unprofitable. So now now when we get together once a month, we look at the Amazon sales and make sure how they're doing well. But then we look at how her other practice works and what its profitability is, so that she can have a better picture. And she says she's never understood her numbers as clearly as she does now. So that's the kind of work that a business profit coach, I believe, helps
to deliver.
business owner.
Thank you so much for sharing this sage advice. Now, we already know, everybody's on the call list, that you've had a wonderful, colourful career in the corporate world. But I want to talk a little bit about your experience becoming a certified Fix This Next advisor. What was that process like?
Well, So the same gentleman I referred to that wrote Profit First
Hmm.
wrote it's actually a methodology. It's an assessment methodology
Right.
called Fix This Next. And he opened it up for anyone who wanted to become certified to apply, and you had to submit your business plan on how this would work, et cetera.
Hmm.
And I was approved to take that. And he teaches you how to use this assessment methodology. And it's a really cool methodology based on, actually, I don't know if you've heard, I'm sure you've heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Just a couple of times.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as you know, that is supposed to be a model,
Hmm.
the triangle with the layers.
Yep.
It's supposed to be a model of how human beings will prioritize different things that they need in their lives. So at the bottom layer, as you know, is food, water, air. Second layer is safety and security. The third layer is love, esteem, and belonging, etc. Right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay. And the premise of Maslow is that if you're not able to breathe, you really don't care about the levels above you.
Oh no.
You're having a hard time breathing.
I can't
Okay.
get by.
Exactly. Imagine yourself at a restaurant and you're having a great discussion over a beautiful glass of wine about something, about your legacy or your impact on the world or the nonprofit that you're gonna, and then you start to choke. Like, at that moment, nothing becomes more important than the oxygen because you're not going to survive the next 5 minutes. So the business is exactly the same way. So he created the business hierarchy of needs, and that's what the Fix This Next technology is based on. The business hierarchy of needs is exactly the same. The bottom layer is the oxygen of the company, of the business, whether it's a one-man solopreneur to a multi-million dollar small business. And that is sales. No sales, no oxygen.
No
You don't have,
business.
right. You don't have a business until you sell something, right?
Hmm.
So that's the sales level. The second level is profit. Why is it not on the bottom? Here's the thing. Profit, like I said at the top of the hour, it's
Hmm.
stability. If a business owner is seeing predictable profit, I'm not talking monumental buckets of cash. That would be awesome. But if they're seeing predictable profit, they have stability. So now they can focus on something a little more interesting in their business, which is the next layer, which is order or systems to run the business.
Ah.
So it's exactly the same way. A lot of business owners run to, oh, I got to focus on sales, and then I got to focus on order, and then I got to run back down to sales, and then so
It's crazy.
and they're, it is crazy, and he calls it the survival trap, and it's absolutely the case.
Hmm.
You're in survival mode, running from sales to order to sales to order to, oh my gosh, and now I got to fill, and now I got to do. And
No
so
wonder you're so tired at the end of the
I know, right?
day.
So the Fix This Next technology takes the business owner through an assessment, and we start at sales. And there's 5 components within that in the sales level, and we test. How are you doing on this? How are you doing on this? How are you doing on this? And if there's a vital need that is not being met, guess where you need to start? Guess what you need to fix next?
Yeah, it's
Sales.
kind of like the snakes and ladders game. Go down the ladder and
Yeah,
try again.
exactly. Exactly. It's exactly like that. So it's an assessment tool, and it's very powerful. And I've applied it in an insurance agency,
Hmm.
law practices, because I have another business called The Profitable Lawyer, where I'm so grateful that I got to partner with an attorney, and we're bringing this technology and this profitability mindset to law practices.
Fantastic.
Who knew,
Who
right?
knew?
Who knew? But yeah, they need as much profit as anyone else. So this technology gives you an orderly way of looking at where your problems are and starting at the bottom and fixing them in an order that makes sense for the business itself.
You've touched
So,
on some pretty important stuff here, and one of them you just touched on it momentarily in terms of once you start to get a little bit of control and you're getting away from that chaos component, that you're starting to introduce systems.
right.
Is this same system, this same approach, useful in terms of scaling a small business?
Absolutely. A lot of people don't have sales and profit down and then they try to scale.
Mm. Cart before the horse.
Well, yeah, but how do you know?
Yeah,
If
you
you've
don't.
never run a business, if you don't have a technology like this, if you know you're busy 70-hour weeks,
Mm.
you don't have time to read the business books. You don't have time to sit down and think about it. So it's like trying to get a 4-year degree or more, or an
Mm-hmm.
MBA or whatever, and run your shop. It's very hard. It's so hard. So they think that, oh, I'll just start, attorneys in particular. I think I'll just, partner with someone. That'll take care of the sales. I'll have some sales. He has some sales. We'll come together. We'll share some expenses. And Bob's your uncle, like they say here in the
Job's done.
US. Yeah. And you know what? It has a very high failure percentage.
Mm-hmm.
Because why? You haven't looked at it in a systematic approach and you grow too fast. And you do need that stability and you do need those systems in place to make sure you're efficient. Here's the thing. If you have inefficient systems,
Mm-hmm.
it'll eventually show up in your sales because you'll get the reputation of someone who is not able to deliver consistently as promised, right? Because you're reinventing the wheel every 5 minutes, every time.
Consistently inconsistent.
Exactly. Wait,
Yes.
can I borrow that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's yours.
Okay, I like that. Consistently inconsistent. I love that. Oh, that's my next blog post
Oh,
title.
it's
I
all
love
yours. Love it. Glad I could help.
it. Thank you. So yeah, when you're consistently inconsistent,
Yep.
it will affect your sales,
Mm-hmm.
which will then affect your profit. so so if until you fix the whole organism,
Mm-hmm.
you are running around like a chicken with your head cut off.
Yeah.
So that's why I love the technology. That's why I wanted to become certified as an advisor. And I use it. Now, for your listeners, you can actually take the assessment for free. You don't necessarily have to hire someone like me. You can go to his website, fixthisnext.com, and do the assessment for free for yourself. Answer the questions, and then the system will tell you which is the first vital need that you need to work on. It won't give you the entire list. It won't say, here's your score on sales, here's your score on profit, here's your score. It'll just tell you, you didn't do so good at this particular vital need.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of limited in what it gives you. So you got to hire someone like me
Ah.
to help you walk through it and interpret it and actually put a plan in place. Because one thing is to know you have a problem, but another thing is to then put a plan in place to close that gap,
But
right?
it's something more. It's about accountability. I often personally struggle with getting things done because there's nobody there apart from myself to keep myself accountable. Is that
Right?
an important component in the relationship that you have with your clients?
Absolutely. It is. It's the underlying it's the underlying foundation for the entire time that I'm with them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's generally why they like to sign on to the CFO, virtual CFO or virtual CEO role
Mm-hmm.
with me because someone holding them accountable, they realize, well, I got a lot done during that 3-month engagement. I really swung some big doors with very small hinges. And so they get addicted to accountability. Yeah, it's part of
Absolutely.
it.
I can see how this can make a big difference. I'm already sitting here getting animated thinking, how do I get involved? When do I go do the test? All of these wonderful things that you're offering on the table. Thank you very
Yeah.
much for sharing. Now, importantly, from a mechanical standpoint, when people want to find you, connect with you, and then work with you, what is the process that you take them through?
Well, I'm a business coach, so I don't always need to do a Fix This Next assessment. Sometimes people hire me for just the financial reviews and so
Yeah.
on. So I have two websites. One is dianamiret.com, in which you can just see what I do there and how I do it and so on. But most importantly is you can schedule a complimentary strategy session. And in that strategy session, I don't spend any time selling you. I really listen to the business owner and what their issues are. And it's a 1 hour coaching session.
Yeah.
And they get to experience not only the way I approach things, but also my style. So if they are interested in moving forward, then we'll have a more of an enrollment kind of discussion. The other way to get a hold of me is pure Fix This Next. I have a website called fixthisnextbusinesscoaching.com. And there is just purely Fix This Next business coaching services and pricing, etc.
Well, there you
So
go.
that's the best ways.
They are two powerful ways, if I may say so myself, to get in contact with you, Diana. Thank you again for sharing your insights. And for everybody who's on the show today, as is customary, I will be making sure that the links back to Diana and all of the work that she is doing is available to you. And in closing, thank you so very much, Diana, for spending some time with me on the My Future Business show today.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.